If you were an animal, what would you be? What are 3 reasons we should not hire you? These are examples of some unexpected and tricky surprise interview questions that you need to know how to answer. And as a recruiter, we like to ask you these questions because we want to see how you work under pressure, if you can think on your feet, and to make sure that you aren't cheating, to make sure that you don't have a pre-rehearsed or memorized answer, because there's no way you would have expected us to ask you this kind of question. And make sure you stay till the end of the video, because my last question is so tricky and difficult it even trips up CEOs and executives. So the first tricky question is, tell me about a time that you failed. This is a tricky question because you obviously need to share about a time where you made a mistake or something went wrong. But do not share an example or a mistake that was really big or one that would make you look really bad as a candidate, because then that will get you automatically rejected. So when you're thinking about an example for this, make sure you pick a very small mistake that you made, but most importantly, you need to have a lesson that you learned from it. Ideally, this lesson would have helped you become better at your job or fix something else going on at your company, your team, or with one of the processes. So as a very short example, you can say something like, so our legal and IT teams had changed the recruiting process and I didn't attend a mandatory training session. So when I extended an offer to a candidate, I actually ended up violating a compliance policy. So the legal team had to meet with me to fix it, and in order to show me the proper steps in order to update it, I had actually caught 3 huge flaws in the new process and the system. So I worked with the IT team in order to make these changes, and I actually volunteered to update the training materials, and I ended up leading the global training session 2 weeks later for 350 recruiters. And we also created a brand new FAQs document to handle any questions that come up after this new process was fixed. The next question to be ready for is, if you could be any animal, what would you be and why? Obviously, this has nothing to do with whatever job it is that you're applying for, unless you're trying to be a zookeeper or something. So this question is purely designed to throw you off your game and see if you can do any critical thinking on the spot. So obviously, don't pick any random animal or don't choose your favorite animal. You need to be strategic. Remember, this is still an interview, so you should choose an animal that demonstrates qualities that would be good for a job. You want an animal that's hardworking, intelligent, works well in teams. So you could say that you would be a wolf because wolves tend to hunt and travel in packs, and you like to focus on succeeding as a group rather than individual. And you could even joke around and say that you would be the alpha or the leader of that group. You could say that you're a dolphin because they're smart and they also move in packs or herds, so teamwork. You could say that you're a shark because you're always swimming, moving forward, and you're hardworking. The next unexpected tricky question is, what would your manager say about you? Now, good news, this is basically just another version of what are your strengths and weaknesses. Now here, you can actually just pick and choose what you want to do because they didn't give you a specific number. So if I were you, I would choose 2 positive things about yourself that are related to the job. You should choose something technical and something non-technical related to teamwork. And then you can pick 1 area of improvement. And again, make sure that this 1 area of improvement is something really small and not something that will actually get you rejected. So as a quick example, you could say something like, if you were to ask my boss about me, they would probably have 2 areas of strength, and then they would probably have 1 area that I'm working to improve right now. So for some of my strengths, I think they would say that I'm great at critical thinking, which allows me to actually identify process improvement opportunities. And they would also say that I have really strong domain knowledge when it comes to knowing my industry and my niche that I'm assigned to. So when I'm recruiting for candidates, I'm typically the subject matter expert, and I've actually led trainings and onboarding sessions for other recruiters who've joined my team. But for areas of weakness or potential areas of improvement, I do think they would say that I like to operate really independently and I like to be in control of my own work. But unfortunately, that doesn't give my teammates a lot of opportunities for growth. And I have been working to implement this by getting my teammates more involved in some of my projects. And that's actually helped me become a better and more effective team lead and manager today. And the next important question is, why are you not subscribed to my YouTube channel? I post free weekly career advice, so you're not going to want to miss any of my videos. The next tricky question that I like to ask is, if you were in an elevator with our CEO, what would you say to them? By the way, if you apply to any of Elon Musk's companies, this is actually a question that they do ask you. And if you actually do get caught in the elevator with Elon Musk, he will ask you what you do at that company. So to answer this question, you would briefly say that you would give an introduction to yourself, and then you would talk about what you're doing at that company. But most importantly, you need to explain why your work is valuable. Then wrap everything up by saying that you would ask a very intelligent and thought-provoking question to your CEO. It could be something related about the news that you saw about your company or about a recent decision that your company has made, and asking them to explain some of the pros and cons or how they arrived at that decision. Most importantly, don't make it about you. So you need to point out that when you're in the elevator, you are not going to ask them for a favor for your career or ask them how you can get promoted or give you advice. The next surprise question is something like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how lucky are you? Now, in general, if you ever get a question where you have to pick a number between 1 through 10, you should never pick 10 or whatever the highest number is, because you always want to show that there's room for growth, learning, and improvement. So choose a number like 7 or 8 and then explain it by saying something like this. Oddly enough, I think you actually create your own luck. I've always believed that luck is just where hard work meets opportunity. So if I had to rate myself on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably put myself right around an 8, because things in life don't always come easy to me. And in fact, I would actually prefer it to be that way, because I'd much rather put in the hard work in order to achieve a goal, because it feels so much better at the end. All right, now let's talk about one of the trickiest and hardest interview questions that we'd like to ask even CEOs and top-level executives, and a lot of them still get this one wrong. And that question is, what do you think about your boss? And even if you're the CEO of the company, you still technically have a boss, which would be the board of directors. So obviously, you should never say anything overly negative about your boss, and you should treat this kind of like a what are your strengths and weaknesses question, but in reverse, because now you need to think about the strengths and weaknesses of your boss. So for one of the strengths or good things about your boss, you want to pick something that's generally good about every single good manager. So that could be creating psychological safety, or giving you the autonomy to make mistakes or to learn things on your own or to work independently, or to be really good at their job or have technical knowledge so they can provide good advice and guide you in the right direction to make the right decisions. And of course, you want a boss that is supportive of your career, so someone that proactively finds opportunities for you to learn, grow, and set yourself up for promotions. Now, the next strength or good thing about your boss you want to choose is something that's related to the company culture, mission, or values of this company that you're applying and interviewing for. So in order to do that, I would look at their company website and check their mission statement, or some of them actually have leadership principles or values like Amazon. So choose one of those leadership principles or values and give an example about how your boss demonstrates that and why that makes them good for you. And of course, you should share one area of improvement or one weakness, but make sure it's something really small so it doesn't come across that you are bitter or that you don't respect your boss, because that obviously will not make you look good in an interview. So you could say something small like, in one area I think my boss could potentially improve is by getting some of our more quieter and shyer teammates who actually can contribute really amazing ideas but are too nervous to do it in a group setting. So I think they should be more encouraging, allowing them to speak up in team meetings and contribute their ideas. So those are 7 really tricky, unexpected, and surprise interview questions that you need to know how to answer. Now, what are some tricky interview questions that you actually got in your interviews? Put that down in the comments below, and make sure you click subscribe for more career tips just like this so I can help you advance your career, pass more interviews, and get more job offers. Thank you all for watching, and don't be afraid to shake things up.